And now the collected interviews as the Beatles reminisce about Christmas in the Fab Four. George Harrison, 1978. Oh, Christmas, well, you know, in the early days it was pretty normal. You know, we'd all have Christmas with our families, you know, in the 50s when we were just starting out. You know, everybody still thinks we started out in the 60s. We started out in the 50s, you know, but nobody had heard of us. But we you know, I'd go over my aunt's house and Paul'd go to his family and we'd all be with our family. And, you know, later in the day we'd hang out with each other and we'd drink whiskey, and we liked Irish whiskey on Christmas. That was always the thing that we liked on Christmas, was Irish whiskey. And we'd eat Limburger cheese and crackers and fruit cake. Yeah, I've never understood why everybody says, oh, I don't like fruit cake. I hate fruitcake. Oh, fruitcake is the worst thing I've ever tasted. It's so disgusting, fruitcake. I said to myself, where do these people come off? Hating fruitcake. I mean, honestly, what's so bad about it? I'm sorry. Son of a bitch, they've got me on this medicine for me poops that makes me burst out in outrageous laughter. Like every 15 minutes I just start. Not because I poop so much, you know, because I'm a vegetarian. I eat a lot of rabbit food, as they say. So, you know, to control me poops, they've got me on this medicine. It makes me laugh. I'm sorry. I'm lying to you. I'm just stoned. I'm sorry. No, but, you know, Christmas in the early days, we just go to each other's families. Paul McCartney, 2005. Oh, yeah, well, in the early days, we'd be separate most of the day for Christmas, but as time wore on, we spent more and more time with one another. And, so we would find things to do, you know, John with his Merry Crimbo and all that stuff he would say, you know, he'd start saying we'd sit around an unlit fire. That had us pissing our pants one Christmas. I think it was Christmas of 62? 61. No, well, I think it was 61, but it could have been 62. I mean, it doesn't matter, but, you know, John said, Merry Christmas. No, he said, Mally Crimbo, let's all sit around an unlit fire and smoke fags. And I looked at George's face got all tore up. I looked at Ringo's, all of it, you know, of course, Ringo wasn't even in the band at that time. And I looked at him, you know, I turned to Ringo, I said, Ringo, and he says, you know how Ringo talks, Ringo's got that low register, and he, blah, 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 blah. I said, Ringo, what are you doing here? You're not even in the band in 61. He says, I don't remember what of course, you know, George Martin, 1995. Well, you know, there was these series, and every year they make these interviews with the boys where they're talking about Christmas, and they're always drunk when they're talking about Christmas. You know, they're always, they've had about a half a bottle of whiskey, or they smoked a lot of pot, or they've, you know, done a lot of whatever. Yeah, and you can't get any straight answers out of them. Ringo Starr, 1979. Oh, Christmas. Oh, well, you know, the best story of all is Christmas of 1967. 1967 Christmas. We were, I think we were in Paris. I think it was Christmas Eve. And John, as he was known to do, had taken his clothes off. Because this is what John does, you know. John, you know, you saw that album cover he did with Yoko. Well, this is what he'd been known to be doing. Yeah, he believed, and God rest his soul, I love John. John's my brother. He'll always be my brother. I'm not making fun of John. I'm not criticizing him, for what he did. But John loved to take his clothes off and have his winger. Just winging about, just swinging it around like a lasso, ride 'em cowboy, He'd take his pecker, he'd start swinging it around, woo! And I mean, this is what John was known for. I'll tell you, there was this one time. Okay, no. Well, no. I can't do it. Okay. I don't know where to go. John Lennon, 1979. Oh, yeah, well, they'd all start talking about how I take out my penis. Can I say penis on television? I mean, it's a free country, isn't it? I mean, I would take out my penis at Christmas parties. I started doing it in 65. I never stopped. I do it to this day. I don't care who's there. The Queen of England could be staring at me fucking crotch. I'm taking out my penis at the Christmas party. You don't like my penis? Then look at the Christmas tree. Because it ain't got no penises on it. But if you want to see this is the most failed attempt I've ever made. I can't stop laughing. If you want to see I'm going to put this on YouTube anyway because it's just stupid. If you want to see penises, look at me, because I'm flipping it around, I'm flobbing it. Look at me penis, I'm John Lennon, and I've got a penis. Paul McCartney, 1985. Yes, well, John was known, after, I don't know, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80. He didn't do it after 80. After 1980, John did not take out his penis and flail it around. Well, because he passed away, and dead people don't take their penises out and just... George Harrison, 1998. Well, when the other guys talk about Christmas past, they start laughing. And I said to Ringo, why is it that whenever they start talking about Christmas, they start laughing and they act like it's so funny, like they're so amusing, like, they find themselves so amusing. And, Ringo says, blah, 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 blah. That's how Ringo talks. He's got that low voice. He's got a deep, Ringo's a baritone. And a lot of people questioned... See, now I'm doing it. A lot of people questioned the wisdom of letting Ringo sing on the albums because he was a baritone, and the rest of us were tenors. Paul had the high tenor, I had the high tenor. And John was sort of a contra-tenor, but he could scream to the high tenor range, and Paul could scream. I was never much of a screamer, but, Ringo was certainly not a screamer, but he had that baritone voice. And, why did I start talking about Christmas? Well, Ringo Starr, 1987. Oh, yeah, well, we had those Christmas ornaments we had made, those custom-made Christmas ornaments, Some of them looked like vaginas and boobies and peckers and assholes and the Queen's tits and all this stuff. This is the things that we did in those days because we were crazy. We were so out of ideas by 1968, 69, 70. Of course, in 71, we weren't together anymore. Ringo, What? Why did you just say what you just said like one of those really bad Beatles impressions, you know? Oh, 'cause we weren't together anymore. I didn't say it like that. Oh, yes, you did. Rewind the tape. Go back. 'Cause we weren't together anymore. See what you said? Oh, I guess I did say it like that. Well, see, that's what I mean. You're giving them ammunition. Well, where do you think they got the impression from? But people from Liverpool don't talk like that, Ringo. Well, George, I can't answer your criticisms. Paul McCartney, 1983. Oh, every Christmas we would get absolutely pissed. I mean, we would get destroyed. We would just over the top drunk. We do cocaine and pills, and we had, what was that, amyl nitrate. We would inhale that. What's it? The gay people use it. What's it called, Linda? Oh, poppers. Oh yes, poppers. We would inhale poppers to make ourselves laugh. I mean, we weren't doing it to have gay sex or anything like that, but we would inhale amyl nitrate to laugh, And one time, we got a whole bunch of nitrous oxide, and George Martin had come in with it, and we were going to listen to our last record while listening to it while on nitrous oxide. And it happened to be the White Album, which actually is called the Beatles. People don't know that. They think it's called the White Album. We never called it the White Album. That's what the fans called it, but that's not what we called it. George Harrison, 1981. Oh, yes, and George. Wait a minute, I'm George. I just had an out-of-body experience. I thought I was somebody else. Did you see where did my soul go? I think you just made a mistake, George. No, I did not make a mistake. I had an out-of-body experience. Okay, please proceed. Anyway, so Paul always says, that the White Album was called the Beatles, not the White Album. Like, people don't know, how Paul talks all haughty, Paul McCartney, 1982. Well, George says that I talk like this. I don't talk like that at all. I don't. I agree. I do have a certain sing-songy tone to my voice, but I never in my life said meh. George Harrison, 1985. Oh, and Paul will deny that he says meh, but I've heard him, I've been in the booth with him in Abbey Road. I've been in the studio with him when he was saying, I'm Paul McCartney. Paul McCartney, 1987. I never said I'm Paul McCartney. George makes that stuff up. Ringo Starr, 1989. Oh, God, Paul and George will get back and forth, and George will say, oh, Paul, says I'm blah, 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 and then Paul will say, oh, George says I'm blah, 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 and then Paul will say, Ringo talks in that low register, and he says, blah, 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 blah. No, I'm imitating Paul, imitating me. It's gotten ridiculous. It's absolutely out of hand. Come on. John Lennon, 1994. What the fuck are you talking to me at 1994 for? I'm dead. Sorry, John. Paul McCartney, 1994. Oh, so, now they're talking to Paul. I'm Paul. See, now I just had an out-of-body experience again, too. George Harrison, 1994. So, Paul, he has these out-of-body experiences like I do. We all talk about each other. So, it's just, the lines get blurred, right, Ringo? I'm not here. Come on, Ringo, talk with me. I'm not here. Well, you talked with me when we did that Raggedy Ann and Andy thing with Paul and his collection with the rag dolls. I did that, but I'm not doing this. Okay, Paul. I'm not Paul, I'm Ringo. I mean Ringo, you know what I meant. Well, you've always done that. Well, you know, sometimes parents call their own children by the wrong names. It doesn't mean they don't love them. Oh, well, you just called me Paul. I'm sorry, Ringo. Well, why don't you call me Richard Starkey? Richard Starkey. Richard Starkey. Oh, God. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Christmas would always get wild with us. It was just a wild affair. And, you know, this is why, What are you laughing at, George? Because I just smoked a pound of reefer with you, Ringo. I'm not here. You're here, you just smoked reefer with me. I don't call it reefer, I call it muggles. Okay, Ringo, I mean, whatever. So, this is why the Beatles never made a Christmas album, although a bootleg of a Christmas album that we had done for fan clubs came out. But we never made a Christmas album because we could never take it seriously. Ringo Starr, at the same interview. Yeah, well, now I'm talking in the microphone. Ringo, I thought you didn't want to talk. Well, now I'm on the microphone. Okay. You were about to call me Paul. No, I was going to call you Ringo. No, I heard it. I heard the P. Almost there was a P that came out. You know how you talk, George, all nasal. I don't say blah, blah, blah. Oh, now we're going to get into the argument. Well... For the